What's going on, guys, and welcome back. Hope you're having a good one. Today, we're going to talk about War Machine. Is he overhyped, or is he the best card in March, or maybe even this year? Is he going to break Marvel Snap? Alex and I are going to talk about the best synergies and everything you need to know about the newest card. On top of that, we're going to talk about the recent OTA. Thanos, can he be stopped? The Guardians of the Galaxy, was it enough? In a special episode of the Snapchat, live from Boston. In fact, you might think I look a little tired. You probably don't think that, but maybe you do. It's 4 a.m. in the morning. I had a nice little 8-hour delay on my flight, so today's going to be pretty mega different. A little bit of a shorter episode, and the audio will be a little different as well, but hopefully you guys do enjoy. But we're going to talk about that all today more on this episode of the Snapchat. And live from Boston, as always, I'm joined by the one and only Mr. Alex Coccia. We're getting to see each other for the first time at three-dimensional space. I can confirm, guys, he is absolutely more of a dad than I thought. We had fans come up to us, and they were like, can you take a photo? And Alex had it on the selfie mode, and he was like, oh, man. And then he smells like Costco. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I smell like Costco. I smell like the Costco hot dog.
Yeah, the hot dog. Maybe like the pizza. Okay, I'll give you the pizza. Okay. Dude, this is awesome. Like, what? It's 73 plus weeks, talking to you almost every day of my life. And we get to see each other, like, finally.
I know, it's actually a surreal experience, and I bet you a lot of people online have a similar experience in the sense that, like, in gaming, you make friends, you make long-lasting friends, and then, like, you might live across the world from each other, right? Yeah. And I think the first time you might experience this in, like, World of Warcraft, other games, and then for Cozy and I, it's like, obviously, Marvel Snap brought us together, our podcast brought us together, our content did, and it literally has been over 70 weeks where we talk literally on a regular basis, day to day. Do this. We've never missed a week. We've never missed a week. And to see you in three-dimensional space, it actually was like mind-blowing to me, and it took me like hours to get used to it.
It was a weird, for looking at someone every day, it was weird to like have this like unknown feeling of who you, like, I'm like, whoa, like I don't know, I know you, but I've never seen you, but I've seen you. It's a weird concept. It's almost like, listen, we had like damn near 100 plus people come up to us, which the fan interaction has been mind blowing. I still like, guys, I'm just a dude, right? Like, and Alex just a dad. We're both dads, but it's crazy to have this interaction of someone that you spend kind of a lot of time with, in a sense, right? And so PAX has been awesome. Just the love of just games, people being able to be themselves, man. PAX is a really special event. It's really cool.
It is. Like, the thing I really love about it is just the freedom to be who you are, like, honestly. And if you want to spend 7 hours playing card games with your friends, then play card games for 7 hours with your friends. You know what I mean?
I mean, we sat down and played some Star Wars Unlimited game that was a card game. I forgot. My memory is who won that.
I think you remember who won. Yeah, I think Alex won.
Darth Vader conquered, guys. It was a good time. But altogether, man, just like really cool to be in person. We've had a lot of tech issues. We're holding a microphone with no stand. As you can see, this is big time professional. We filmed some yesterday, the Snapchat. Okay, guess what happened? Audio corrupted, dead. So like we have gone through the hoops, and this is almost just par for the course, I feel like.
Yeah, of course. Listen, at the end of the day, all you can do is try your best. We've tried our absolute best, and hopefully we can get some fun content out there for you guys. But it's been a wild ride, and I'm just happy to be able to do this live.
Well, guys, we've got maybe a little bit of a different Snapchat, but we'll try to do much of the same here. And listen, I mean, we've got War Machine coming out Tuesday. Again, is he going to just break Snap? Is he a little bit overhyped? Going to break that down. We've got the OTA. Has Thanos finally been changed? What is this? Attempt number like 20?
45, yeah.
20. Yeah, we've lost count at 50. But let's start there, right? So we had the Spotlight Week, okay, and we've got Silk and Silver Samurai. How are we feeling about that? I feel it's kind of in the trend of the last couple, kind of weak with a potentially pretty good card.
Yeah, it's like kind of like the actual Spotlight cache. When you look at it, you want War Machine, and the other ones are just kind of filler. And in the past, we have like a card like Cannonball that isn't particularly strong, but you want Miss Marvel.
Right.
It's like there's this balancing act between the Spotlight caches. Like, I would prefer that the Spotlight caches are always really exciting and are always cards you really want to get.
Yep.
In this case here, it looks like War Machine's really the target you're after.
And if you don't really, War Machine, if you guys don't know, is a 4-cost, 6-power card, and he kind of has Jeff's ability mixed with the next turn. So when you play him on reveal next turn, all of your cards can break the rules, right? So obviously a lot of power potential there, but not maybe as much synergy as you might think, and we'll get to that. When it comes to just star rating out the rip, I think this was my 5-star going into it. I might go down about 0.5. I'd probably land about 4.5. Where are you at on War Machine?
I'm pretty confident in my 4-star rating. I think he's a good card. I'm a little concerned of the stats. I think that the stats are starting to get a little like. Listen, 4 costs are so damn powerful now. You see what Cull Obsidian's doing, and 4-6, it's just not quite strong enough to give me the full confidence in it. But we've seen Iron Lad at 4-6 do wonders, right? So
yeah, and that's what like people are saying. Okay, is this Jeff and Iron Lad mixed together? Yes, for the most part. I think the biggest con is we've got another card, and this is how they balance, kind of overpowered effects sometimes. On turn 6, that's kind of useless, right? You play him, you're not going to have anything really happen for you to turn 7. Maybe we can look at Magic, and that adds another turn potentially. But Iron Lad, on the other hand, is a card that's tremendous on turn 6. You have, less cards to be a little bit more less random, and it's like a 50-50 almost at times to see what scan you get. Whereas, War Machine, you need to rely on that. And then Jeff has the package all in one. He doesn't need other cards played after him, right? So I think it is a good example, but he's going to be different. But with that, there is a lot of synergy. And Alex, I want to first talk about location, and then I want to talk about kind of the cards. And location is where I think is his strongest suit, right? There's going to be so many locations coming out. We know we have things like Kiln, we've got Morag, we've got these Sanctum that you can't play into, and these just appear at all these different games that you're playing, especially in a game mode like Conquest. This is where I think he's going to have the most utility, but then you also have cards that are providing these shutdown locations that also have that. And so he's going to have this offensive power with a little bit of defense.
I really do think that War Machine's capabilities, like from a location perspective, are probably being slept on.
Okay.
I think Mockingbird was a good example of like when you're playing a card, and we probably overfixate on Mockingbird on its release week, but when I was testing my Mockingbird stuff and I was playing, Patriot-based decks and all those types of things, I was not playing Thanos. Damn it! I was so depressed that Mockingbird ended up like being shoehorned into Thanos. But I noticed, I was like, oh man, look at that! Like every time there's a Monster Island or a Savage Land or even Central Park or whatever, and there's squirrels everywhere, like Mockingbird just goes down, it happens more often than you would think, and I think War Machine's going to be the same.
I mean, it kind of happened when Jeff came out, or Legion even. It's like, wow, these cards matter because of how much locations play importance. I mean, locations are such a massive part in Snap that I think people continue to just maybe not give the full respect to some of them. And then we're going to get more shutdown locations. They scaled them back. Heck, they've taken some out, like with Sandbar.
Sandbar was removed.
Yeah. And we had, there was one with the ship with like the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then that just disappeared. What was that one? I don't even remember it.
But what I will say as well is like when you're playing like competitively, like I remember you were casting, the Conquerors event, and someone was playing Cerebro like in the finals, and their locations were so detrimental to them competing.
They would have won those games.
Yeah. So like it's like we play so many games in Marvel Snap, it's so easy to go in and out, but like locations are often slept on as their impact they have on the game. And like just think about what the most recent patch did, how it pulled back a lot of destroy centric locations to actually shadow nerf destroy.
Yeah. And I think let's start with something like Professor X, right? So even though he's on a location, he's kind of like making this shutdown location. I don't, as much as I want to see the synergy with him, because Jeff, that's where you go. You've got a turn 4 card. Pro X is a turn 5 card. You need the next turn to be able to play cards into that location. A little wonky. I don't think there's going to be as much synergy there. Again, maybe going back to like the Magic thing, or if you could cheat out cards with maybe Hope or Psylocke post nerf at this point. I'm not crazy about the Professor X kind of thing. I don't know about you.
I'm really hesitant on Pro X too, especially offensively, because like I just don't know what that curve looks like with the amount of power you're putting out. Like as a 5-1, Pro X needs that setup, right? Usually in advance, right? Or of course you ramp him out and then play your War Machine, and then you can kind of offset the power loss that you have there with your turn 6 play. But like how many cards are you playing? Do you really want to commit to a Pro X lane while you're probably throwing another lane, right? Like it's kind of tricky from a power perspective, because War Machine is also a 4-6. And if you're against a Thanos player who just dropped a Cull Obsidian, you are like super behind, because they also probably played on 1, 2, 3, and then 4 as well.
I do see him as a control card in a lot of ways, and I think he's going to be, again, used more offensively. I just don't know if that's going to be the route. And so things like Storm, I love the potential. We've talked about this in the past where, Storm Legion was the hottest meta for 2 weeks, and then people just stopped playing it. It wasn't like it was never bad. It just kind of maybe the gimmick got used up. Like people kind of knew what was happening here. Where I feel like if you play Storm on 3, War Machine, really any turn after that, you could play Legion and it's done. You shut it down, and I think that's going to be like a great little combo and way less suspecting.
Yeah, and the other key thing is that like it's on curve. Storm on 3, War Machine on 4, and then you play Legion into the flooded location, which is not. It's gonna shut down the game for turn 6, right? Like there is no opportunity to play, and you've played perfectly on curve.
Yep. Yeah, and that's right now. Storm's really like the only outside of Pro X like way to make one of these locations, which is going to be, I think, imperative to War Machine's kit. Now, when we talk about synergy, there's like 10 or 13 cards that actually have like direct synergy, but he kind of synergizes with everyone because of those locations. Do you think this is something that you can use offensively with, I don't know, something like Jean Grey?
Most certainly. Like honestly, if you think about it, like I think cards are at their best when you like have a definite plan for how you're going to use them in your deck. So Jean Grey naturally is going to force someone to play into a given location and give you the freedom to not. Like we often kind of work around that by like brooding the location or playing Jeff first and playing somewhere else or whatever, right? Like there's tricks around Jean Grey. But the problem is Jean Grey good enough to even warrant the effort of doing it?
Spot, right? Yeah. But what I love is like the cool thing about War Machine is he's gonna have certain card combos that like are instant win conditions, and this will almost never happen. We have to mention it for some of you guys that are just clamoring for it. But like the Sanctum Galactus play, I mean, like there's gonna be those one-off plays that you can, and that's what's great about him is because like Iron Lad fits in any deck. What's cool is I think there's going to be a place, let's say in a Nihilist Galactus deck, right? Sentry, another location card. You can't play him on that right side. That's kind of a very niche use. You're not going to want to play Sentry really over there anyway, but there are some games that like, some that you maybe could. But then you have a Nihilist as an alt win condition, then maybe that Galactus play, no?
Yeah, well, I guess in theory, right, with if you play War Machine with Sentry, if you, for instance, don't draw into your Nihilist and you have Sentry, it's still a 10 power card, you can play him on the right and potentially block off that location with his body first, right? So that could be useful. Like you move Jeff over, play the Sentry, then there's no room for the Void to even,
for the board,
right? Because
like
you body block it with Sentry yourself, right? So there's potential there for sure.
So, and then the other card that has been lane restricted forever, and we've clamored this as probably one of the worst cards in Snap. It doesn't really matter about his power because of what it costs, and then like just the opportunity of where to play is Giganto. And we finally get to have a card that makes Giganto not horrible. I mean, like he's represented as Godzilla, but he's more like Littlefoot from I don't know, what was that? Land Before Time.
I was thinking about the little deer that gets shot.
Bambi? But, okay, those are more the location cards, right? Giganto. I think Storm is going to be more of that kind of big hitter there. Let's kind of shift it to the rule breakers, right? This is what we knew Jeff has, and this is where I think we're going to have some real kind of like upside and deck building potential with him. So, War Machine, guys, I got to say it right now. If you don't know, Ebony Maw and Infinite. It's been confirmed by now. If you're watching this and you've seen some other stuff on him, you guys know it allows you to play Ebony Maw at any point in the game, but it also allows you to play Infinite even if you didn't take a rest the turn before. That one card combo alone is a 26 power play, and because of that potential, I think automatically rises War Machine to a pretty incredible value. Having an Infinite at any time, 20 power is going to be massive.
Yeah, and it actually goes perfectly with Giganto as well. So if you think about it, if you play your War Machine on top of a Hope Summers, that gives you the energy the next turn to play Giganto. It gives you the energy the next turn to play the Infinite. And what I want to talk about is we always talk about the lines. We talk about how we actually intend to use the card effectively in a game. And the way I see it working is turn 2, you got Armor and Goose, right? Protect them both ways, right? Turn 3, you have Hope Summers. Turn 4, you have War Machine. Turn 5, you have Giganto or Infinite. Turn 6, you have Taskmaster and Ebony Maw. Like the deck writes itself if you think about it. And you're going for like a specific combo, sure. But like if you think about it, what's that Goose do? Okay,
so we filmed it on the first time we talked about this, we had a lot of Goose conversations. So we like kind of briefed over it. We loved Goose the first time we filmed this because we were talking about essentially how yes, the Pro X is a little awkward, but Goose curves into play, and we've had like She-Hulk you can cheat in there. But imagine at this point, we'll just use Giganto for fun, but you slamming in a Giganto, your opponent at that point is at a massive disadvantage. They're trying to catch up. And there's going to be things like that with even locations, miniaturized lab. It's not open to them. It's open to you. And your opponent's got to play this catch-up. Goose might be one of the more better synergized cards, and it's kind of been out of the meta for a long while.
I listen, I huff a little hopium with Goose sometimes and throw him in Surfer decks, but I will say that the other major thing about that is if they're not running Zabu, it also protects against Shang-Chi, because Shang-Chi won't be able to be played in the lane with Goose, preventing the Giganto or Infinite from getting punched out.
Dude, you're right. That's actually, I mean, what decks aren't running Zabu? But if they're not, and they didn't draw it, then yeah, you're good to go. That's a great point. Those are the location cards. You have Ebony Maw and Infinite for those rule breakers. Okay, we got to also bring up, though, Crossbones. Okay, we've been waiting for Crossbones. At this point, though, he's a 4-8. So the stats, you know, it's not exactly what today's stats are. But, dude, it can feel good to play Crossbones. You don't have to worry about Shang-Chi. If maybe you did Zabu, you get War Machine out early. You can get then Crossbones that next turn, play him wherever you want. You don't have to be winning the location. Do we think Crossbones has a shot here?
I think Crossbones has a shot when he gets OTA to a 4-9.
Dude, if they made him a 4-9, I think he's like a legit card with War Machine, like a usable card.
Yeah, he has to be a 4-9. Like, if he's not, then don't play Crossbones. This is pure copium. But, like, I do think that, like, this is the moment where Crossbones might have relevancy.
Yeah. So, okay, you got Crossbones where you can just play the stat stick wherever, right? Don't have to worry about it. And why that's important is, okay, you look at Jessica Jones, you look at Rescue. These have to wait a turn. Crossbones, you just get that power right then and there. There are other rule breakers that don't, they're fun to talk about. They're not going to have much importance, I don't think. Like Electro, Sandman, we've seen these decks use Jeff. Is War Machine going to fit in that role at all?
You know what? I don't know, honestly. I don't see it working because, like, with Electro, the challenge is that, like, you play Electro on 3, you really want to play a 4 cost on 4. Like, that's not really usually what you're doing. Yeah, you could cheat, 6 costs out, but usually you're playing cards that have access. Like, you're playing, like, Vision anyway, Doctor Doom mode, and, like, you have these cards that don't really need the ability. So, like, I think that's coping maybe. But what I will say, though, is I think the power of Sandman is so insignificant right now that if you play Sandman, even with that effect of using War Machine, again, it's a 4-costed card, and I feel like you never catch up power-wise because, like, you're playing Sandman and they're playing, like, Magneto, and it's hard.
So you've got, like, Cole Obsidian. There's a couple rule breakers, but we know we're going to have future restricting cards. Like, that's how they balance power in the game, and so he's kind of age-proof in that matter, but also one of the most flexible cards we have, I would say, is going to be this card that can work with just about anyone. You're going to have cards that can come into that. I also like the fact that I don't want to say he's nerf-proof because you could go down in number if he's too good. But at that point, that just means his ability's cracked. And so there's not a lot they can do with this kit to tame him if he's too good. On the flip side, if he happens to be bad, then, there's not a lot that they can do, or maybe they can make the power up. But I think that's like what's great about him is he's probably a pretty safe card to invest in for the most part.
Yeah, I do think the ability is actually not quite as crazy as maybe we're like, you know what, I take that back. It is really strong. I just really have concerns about the power level. However, like, it also is important to understand that, like, this is the release valve for control. Right? So this gives Second Inner confidence to create more interesting control-based cards and use War Machine as the release valve. Like, oh, if control's a little too hard or too high or too powerful, we can give War Machine more power. We can maybe allow War Machine's effect to last till the end of the game. Maybe it's an ongoing or whatever. It's an important tool for the future of Snap. In the same way, like Leech, as much as we hate Leech, was an important tool for Snap to some degree.
What I'm trying to think of is like Jeff, because we go to Jeff. I think we all go to Jeff for this ability. But then the reason Jeff is great is because no matter the game, he allows you to play him. How many times are you actually utilizing that Jeff ability, right? Like, you love him in your hand because you could play him wherever, but how many times are you actually playing him into a location that you can't? Like, that's the stuff I'm thinking about. I think Iron Man's biggest fault potentially is overhype. And I don't want to say that he's going to be bad. We do feel pretty good about him. Again, Alex and I are going to get videos out. We're going to test him. Make sure that you guys see those before you just go in and, like, I saw the Snapchat. I want to get him. This is pre-testing. Look, at anything, great expectation can become great disappointment, right? Starfield, great game, incredible game. Had like 15 years in the making. It was just, there wasn't a huge leap from Skyrim. It was a good game. but it also had huge disappointment. So I think War Machine might be a really good card, but it could come ultimately with that disappointment. Now, I think Shuri list, I think Zero list, and Control is going to be its best home. Anywhere else you kind of see it fitting?
I think the major thing, just to go back to your prior point, is that, like, if you think about when Mobius and Mobius came out, Sarah was so prevalent. You had all these like cheating effects like Zabu. There was already cards and decks that were really using that ability. So Mobius and Mobius was like important and needed at the time. With the nerf to Professor X, who was super problematic with Alioth, right now the need for War Machine doesn't feel as immediate as the need for like Mobius and Mobius was. And I think that might damper the expectations for people. But because it allows for the design landscape for Second Dinner to start producing more control-based cards, suddenly I think it gets more interesting in the sense that, like, it's probably one you want to have in your collection because of its defensive ability.
But dude, there's so many cards and decks that utilize Storm, and like even High Evo can utilize Storm, right? And so it's Silver Surfer. So I do think there's going to be a ton of great testing that can be done here. And again, I think we could stumble on something immediately, or it could take weeks. But either way, I'm excited. To shift from War Machine a little bit, want to talk about the OTA, Guardians of the Galaxy with Jean Grey a little bit. We had some of that. The Guardians, was it enough? Was it what you wanted to see? What were your overall feelings of this recent OTA?
You know what? I think it was a good first step, but like I think the Guardians are probably still bad. Like Mantis's change is still completely like useless, right? I still think that like there's a lot, like you can high roll, but it's like, listen, I tried to make a deck with Jean Grey with the Guardians and stuff like that, and it felt okay. It felt okay, but like in Marvel Snap, if you're trying to rank up, okay is not good enough. You want to feel broken, and that's what Thanos does. That's what Hell has been doing. Like it just doesn't compete at those levels, and so I think it still needs work. Yeah,
I said it was too hard for casuals and too risky for competitives. Like that's the problem with them, and like I think I stated like I want them to have another ability, but they're a tough place, and sometimes it's like as a designer, we've seen Glenn and the team like let go of a concept that they had for this card. Like they of a certain card, they wanted it to do this one thing in Snap, and they kind of had to let that go away. It didn't age with the game. I think we're kind of getting there with the Guardians. It works for something like Gamora, but they want them all themed out, and Gamora can work. I think Gamora's fine. It feels okay because it's a late play, and it feels. It's the cheaper ones to me that feel like they need more love. The Star Lords of it and the Groots and the Drax. You'd either have to really make them overcompensated for that power to kind of associate the risk or bring something else to the table.
Yeah, because there's a crapshoot on those early turns where they're going to play, right? Like with Gamora, even if you're playing on 5 or 6, like you probably have an idea of where they're going, right? Like you usually do. And so that's really beneficial.
Daredevil,
yeah, exactly, right? So I do think that the Guardians of the Galaxy, while I'm glad they're taking a look, like I don't think they're playable. Like I really don't.
So let's talk Thanos, because I dead honest, I thought after the Mind Stone going 2 costs, like I was like, this is it. We're gonna tame Thanos. It's a major change. There was a tournament, and like 7 of the 10 decks again were Thanos. What do we do at this point? Like, what do you do to truly? You don't want to keep on, trying to kill a card, but I also don't want other cards, i.e. Psylocke, who I don't think was deserving at all to lose her power. I think was kind of an ugly change. You don't want those cards to keep that. We saw this with Loki. We saw Cable and Mantis, who's still not great, but we saw them go out of just reach for a long time trying to tame Loki. How do you address the Mad Titan himself?
Yeah, it's weird, and Loki's a perfect example, like exactly what you said. Like it was Collector as well taking Strays, and it's like with Thanos, it's a tricky balance because I think you need Thanos to be it should be a legitimate deck. I think that at any time, any Marvel Snap player should be able to play Thanos and feel like they can legitimately win. It's such a unique card in the game. It's such a unique playstyle. It's such an iconic character. You need Thanos, but my concern is that you keep attacking these stones while you're releasing cards that are so like synergistic with Thanos, which is crazy, right? That might not even been intentional. But it's like, as you nerf these cards, does the identity of the Thanos deck start to kind of wither away? And like, no one plays Thanos for the 20 power. No one's playing the 6 Infinity Stones. Like, no one plays that.
Which I wish was the base, like this kind of mini goal in the goal deck kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just basically like a tempo deck where you use the stones to kind of eke out like small advantages over the early turns, right? And like we talked about, I mean, some of the first Snapchats we talked about, like, make the early turns matter again and stuff like that. Well, Thanos does that and makes it a huge advantage.
And then you have something like Kyera that has kind of like really. Kyera was more important to Thanos than people realize. Protecting the 1s and the 6s, it was such a massive. Because I don't know about you, but it's like when you get Kyera and there's Blob and there's this Magneto, there's nothing you can do at that point. Or you've got the stones that start to rack up the power. The Power Stone's 3, the Soul Stone is a pretty big flip, and so. it's a tough assignment, and I don't want them to kill it. It's going to be a careful balance.
The other challenge there is that like Kyra was super important in like Thanos Lockjaw, because if you cheat out a 6-drop and it's just sitting there on turn 4, right?
Yeah.
You don't want it to get punched out. But the other side to that is like, you're right. It's like, what do you even do? Because listen, it's way weaker than it was before. The Mind Stone change from a 1-1 to a 2-1 is actually critically important. And I think that actually was more of a targeted nerf to Mockingbird than Thanos. Because if you think about it, when you played Mind Stone on 1, that allowed you to play 2 stones on turn 2, which already discounted Mockingbird by 3.
Which months ago was already the way to win with Thanos. Like, if you got Mind Stone turn 1, you felt really good. Yeah, you snap, you got your engines going, and now it's like, more and more cards keep coming out to help them out, and there's going to be even more, as we approach even something like, it's a bummer because even something like Red Hulk, you're like, well, I'll just throw him into Thanos. Why would I not? And Thanos, guess what? Is probably really good at capping that energy each turn, right? And so that's where my worry is. Adam Warlock got buffed. You've been playing a lot of him?
No.
Dude, like that, how do they? I just don't see. I was like, 5/5, that'll do it. Like, I don't see Adam working as a 5 cost. I don't think there's anything they can do there unless they give him like a 5/8, which they can't.
The hilarious thing about it is we're seeing a C5 deck kind of start to rise a little bit with Cap Marvel and even Omega Red. And ironically, guess who does not make the cut in the new C5 deck?
Because you look at the 5s and you're like, why would I put that in there? Yeah. Because then also, even if there is like a 1-turn advantage you can get on one specific game, they're on aggregate just better cards to throw in there. It doesn't make sense. I was kind of taken back from Apocalypse. I understand that the discard is, doing what it does, but to me, it's why they don't kill Deadpool in a way. Like, you get to see pretty clearly what's happening. You get to see that, Apocalypse is growing in power. It's kind of telegraphable, and I felt like Dr. Doom, he's kind of the perfect card, man. I get that they had to take him back. I just wish discard had some other fix to it, not APOC.
Yeah, you're right, because like it's so transparent what's happening power-wise with Apocalypse. Like, it's really hard to lose 8 cubes against Apocalypse because you know what's happening unless you're just not paying attention like I do. But ultimately, like, I agree. I was really surprised to see the 2 power off of Apocalypse, and it actually matters. Like, that 2 power legitimately counts.
It was only in the meta for like a couple weeks, whereas we've had decks for a long time. I feel like we just didn't give, like, we had the dependable discard out of the meta for so long. I just wish we weren't immediately targeting it, but hey, with Obsidian, we've got with Ebony Maw and with Proxima, we've had a lot of good discard options. I just wish there were maybe another way to do it.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, I love discard. After the Chavez change, like, I was really low on discard. I was like, the classic dependable discard was one of my favorite decks in the game. And so when that was kind of taken out, I was hoping for some sort of comeback. And we kind of got it, and it's a little more chaotic. Like, Corvus Glaive is not doing what Chavez did. Yeah. It's still a good card, but it's a very different style. And I didn't feel like discard was a problem. I didn't, like, when I played against discard players, I was less annoyed with a POC discard, more annoyed with like a Hella based discard. Like, Hella is, you feel like there's no agency. Like, you kind of just, okay, I'm watching them play and let's let the computer decide what happens, right? But with Apocalypse, it's like, what's up, what's going on. If you're really that upset, run Lady Deathstrike and kill the Dracula. I don't know. What do you want from me?
Well, guys, we got really a week left in the season. Infinity Conquest War Machine is coming out, so we're going to talk about now the best decks that you can use in Infinity Conquest. We're actually joining you live from our studios because we were filming this right before we had to head on some planes. It's been a crazy week, so we're going to pick up there. We'll see you in a second. Hey guys, Editor Cozy here, or kind of. It's 4 in the morning. It's 7 a.m. Alex's time. I'm pretty sure he's like at Costco doing his morning trip or teaching. But yeah, this is what happens when your plane breaks down. So we don't have a last subject this time around, but hopefully you guys have a good time with War Machine. We'll be back to the normal Snapchats next week, and until the next one, happy snapping, guys.